Have you ever almost died and had something inexplicable, miraculously save you? After being married for 8 years and raising my 3 stepchildren, my husband and I decided to have a child together. My family has a long history of miscarriage, so I expected to lose a couple before a pregnancy stuck. Time went by and I didn't seem to be conceiving, but I was pretty well resigned to let whatever happened, happen. One morning I waved goodbye to my husband who was going to be flying that day. He was a naval aviator, got my 3 step kids off to school and got ready for my regular yearly GYN appointment. Suddenly I felt faint and passed a blood clot. Since my family is also famous for horrendously painful and copious menstruation, I was only mildly concerned. I went ahead to my appointment because it was too late to cancel, but I told my doctor that I was bleeding. She tested my urine and found that I was pregnant, but obviously, something wasn't right. I was probably going to miscarry. She said that if the bleeding got any worse, I should go to the ER. I went home pretty much certain I would miscarry, but happy that I had at least been able to conceive. As soon as I got home, I felt terribly sick and fainted. I awoke very weak and ill and passed an enormous clot. I was in tremendous pain. I knew I had to get to the ER, but I was a loner with no friends and no family nearby, so I got into the car and started driving, slapping my cheeks and pinching myself to keep from passing out. When I got to the ER admission desk, I was dreading the multi-hour wait in the waiting room. I had taken my stepson once with a head injury that exposed his skull, and he sat in the waiting room for 4 hours, while someone with a compound fracture moaned and cried on a stretcher in the hall behind us for almost as long. Today, however, the desk nurse took one look at me and sent me directly to triage. The next thing I knew, I was in a room and not 5 minutes later a doctor was there. As it turns out, I was having an internal hemorrhage and needed emergency surgery to stop the bleeding. I asked if there was some way they could wait and notify my husband first. They said that, to be frank, if they did not get the bleeding stopped inside of 15 minutes, I would die. As they wheeled me quickly toward the elevators, I felt myself begin to float above the gurney. I realized how easy it is to die. It's no trouble at all, really. Anyone can do it. I felt peaceful. But suddenly I thought about my children whose mother had died suddenly of a brain tumor just 9 years before, and my husband who had already been widowed once. It wasn't fair that they should have seen my smiling face just a few hours before, wishing them a wonderful day, and come home to find me dead without warning. At that moment, I reached out to my higher power. I said, I have no control over any of this and I know it. I'm not afraid to die. But if I could live so that my children won't have to lose another mother, I would rather stay. Please don't make them go through it again. Nevertheless, I accept whatever happens. The next day, as I was recuperating in my hospital bed, the doctor came in to check on me. I asked him what had gone wrong, since that was no common miscarriage. He replied, we think it was a ruptured ovarian cyst. I asked, what do you mean, you think? Well, he responded, once we got in there, we found that the bleeding had stopped and we couldn't find the source of it. So, 2 miraculous things happened that day to save my life. 1. My yearly GYN checkup fell on the exact day of my miscarriage, and 2. My plea to the universe was heard and answered. Although I had been pumping out blood at a deadly rate, it suddenly stopped just as I asked for mercy for my children. I believe in miracles. How about you?